area with fog, so when Pearl and Platinum eventually arrive, they can't see anything. The grunt tries to contact Cyrus on this troubling situation, but he's too busy getting held up by the region's champion. Cynthia is here to put a stop to Cyrus right now, taking down his honk crew, but he's not fazed by her threats, outsmarting her and freezing her spirit tomb, and even using embargo to stop it from recovering with a berry. So, Cynthia switches for Meiotic, uses Iron Tail. After what Cyrus did to the ruins in her hometown, she isn't going to simply let him slide. Cyrus explains that the pains revealed a lot to him. For example, as of being the willpower Pokémon, hence why he headed for Lake Valor so he could crush willpower with his own. Ware begins stabbing Milutic's tail, and Cynthia commands Brian to finish it off. Up next is Gyarados, and Cynthia can tell that this Pokémon's his card. Due to its immense speed, all she can do right now is aim to slow it down, but she just can't keep up. The sun then begins shining brightly as morning arises once again, and Cyrus commands his Pokémon to hide within the sun, setting up with Dragon Dance and finishing off with a powerful Giga Impact, taking down Milotic. Things aren't looking good, so it's time for Garcho to enter the scene. But even with his health, Cyrus is way too strong. However, since our Pokémon wants revenge, it's not going to go down without a fight. Cyrus is then informed that the red chain is ready for creation. Garcho is proper tweaking out, so Cynthia decides it's time for a little risk, commanding the powerful dragon-type move Draco Meteor as little meteors rain, family and also Platinum's mother. She speaks to her daughter on the phone, having sent her some documents to find her bodyguards, who have been dragged to the Distortion World, which will be Platinum's next destination, and bringing a very foreshadowy ending to the Diamond and Pearl arc. Jeez, this arc was long as hell, but I'm glad it's done and over with. As you can probably guess, our next journey is going to be in the Sea region again, as the gang continue their journey in the Platinum arc, which will resolve the storyline. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to like and subscribe for more Pokemon manga content. With all that said and done, I'll see you all in the next one. Take care. Caretaker tells her that her winter gear's arrived. Next time, she should wait before going out in the cold. Plum asks about the girl who saved her, spoiling a poster, revealing that she's a gym leader of Snow White City. Candice, the best gym leader by the way. Lum needs to focus on going to Lake Acuity. However, Snow White is on the way there, so she should thank Candice before going. As she prepares to head outside, she spots me. Mean is headed to Snow White City to meet Candice as they have friends who train together. So, Platinum tags along training in the same way as Mean, especially since Candice was dressed light and so is Mean. In truth though, Candice values fashion over common sense, and Men is too poor to afford anything else. The two then reach a beautiful city of Snow White City, and with a path to Lake Orty also being visible. Lay knows that she needs to go there, but in order to do that, she has to speak with Candice, who looks after both Snow White Temple and the lake. So, Platinum heads for the gym, but the statue mistakes her appearance for a gym challenge, sending her through the puzzle. For this battle, it's going to be a 3-on re-switch in with Platinum, using Impelon, Rapid Dash, and a secret new member. She blizzes through the gym challenge and meets up with Candice, thanking her for her help and preparing for a battle. The battle gets underway with Impelon versus Snowover, and after a simple metal claw, it's a 3 volts 2. Also, you'd think, Impelon gets hit by a delayed seed bomb, taking it down too. Candice sends out her secret ace, Frostless, while Platinum chooses Rapid Dash. With it now being evolved, its speed has them. Byron's got a lot of work to prepare, and Rolex is the same as the others, so he won't be much help. Leaving only one trainer he knows that can help them, but he'd rather not ask him. With no other choice, he rings a guy. but no answer comes through due to a power outage. In the center region, Sunny Shore City, a father and daughter duo from Plural Roma Town have come to fix the issue. Realizing that all the electricity has been going to one area, this being the Sunny Shore Gym, they head over there to speak with his leader, who's been searching for a serious challenge. He even made a super interesting gym puzzle, hence the blackout. The father shuts off the power drainer. The mysterious leader finally answers his phone, learning that something interesting is about to go down. Heading back over to Veilstone, King Galactic have finally began extracting the chains from the Lake Guardians. They're going to be needing 2 chains, one for the time controller Dalga, and the other for the space controller Palia. And with both of these Pokémon under his control, a new universe will be born. The event exits the ship preparing to make his move. As for the girls, they'll wait for their training coach, the Sunny Shore City gym leader, Volna. In other words, the strongest gym leader in the region. Volgan is here on the impression that he's going to be fighting someone strong. In actuality, he is here as a teacher. So, as punishment, he sends out his Raichu to attack the others, preparing to leave. After all, he only came here to defeat a strong foe. Platinum, however, isn't going to let him leave, promising him a tough battle. Organ is entertained by Mr. Fuego, and he's the owner of his place. He was given a job request to make some parts, which he did with no question. But after handing them over, he realized they were planning on making a bomb. The grunts tried to attack him, so he ran into the factory and activated his defense mechanism, which are the moving floors, which did their job at stopping the enemy from getting to him. But now he can't get out because the moving floors are moving against him. And that's not all. The grunts left behind some Pokémon being a ton of Magby. So Pearl and his team begin frying off the enemy, eventually taking them all down. But Pearl accidentally gets on a conveyor, which begins taking him towards a furnace. As Pearl meets his end, we head to Celestic Town, where Cynthia speaks with her grandmother, mainly about the Cyrus incident. They've never been able to decipher the hieroglyphs, and chances are Cyrus hasn't been able to either, asking her grandma to give her the documents to protect, which he agrees to. Back with Pearl, he heads straight for the furnace, but luckily, Luxray leaps to save him, burning itself in the process, but completing his mission. Pearl thanks the Pokémon and asks for his help once more. By using his X-ray vision, they should be able to navigate through the moving floors without getting injured. They then hear a spooky howl turning around to find a Houndoom, who is also a part of Team Galactic's crew. Pearl tells Luxray to continue forwards whilst he gives instructions on how to dodge, but he starts panicking after Luxray gets grazed, and the two end up getting a full-run attack. Despite this setback, Luxray continues with the plan, having the house at light speed. Meanwhile, and I quote, not dressed appropriately for the Weather Girl trio, are still continuing forth to Lake Asuity. Platinum's actually been to the lake before when she was young. She went missing there for a short while, and during this time, she encountered a specific Pokémon. According to what her father said back in Canal City, a Sableye appears and starts attacking them. But not only that, Gastron also appears, trapping Candice with a mud bomb. These two Pokémon belong to Team Galactic Commander Jupiter, and she begins her attack, stopping the girls from feeding Candice. She then ups the level by sending out her third Pokémon, Tangrove. The Pokémon lets out a blinding light, allowing Saberlight to attack from multiple shadows. Candice then manages to break out through the help of a bonus note, and she rushes at Tangrove, but uses Natural Gift with a Cherry Berry, unleashing a Fire-type attack. An airship then appears overhead, and Jupiter reveals that only one has a bomb, and whilst the other commanders hope to have it, she really couldn't care less. Diamond rushes over to Lake Verity with the use of his running shoes, but Team Galactic and their airship have already reached there. They need to find Diamond's mom, but if he searches, they'll just find him. So instead, Lax will look since he knows his mom, and his mom knows that it's his Pokémon. And if Team Galactic can find Lax, he can just pretend to be a wild Pokémon. And once his mom's been found, Sebastian and Roseanne need to take her on the carriage. Meanwhile, he heads to the ship. And luckily for this mission, he still has Fantina's drift blimp. Dia heads into the shrubs and finds between the Pokémon and stars in space. A helicopter flies by and the Clefairy begin panicking. So Pearl tells Mr. Rickshaw about Team Galactic and their plans, realizing the bomb parts are in fails to see based on what Mr. Fuego told him, and chances are Eternity is being used to move things around. Since they need to get to Lake Valor, Mr. Rickshaw suggested they take a Tucson bike and travel with speed, so they head off with only 2 days remaining. However, whilst they're setting off, Team Galactic are also setting off with 3 aircrafts, heading straight for Veilstone. Heading back to Dia, he's finally arrived at Jubilite City, where his journey originally began. First things first though, is lunchtime. However, his food and map gets stolen whilst he plans things out. Dia runs around the sea to find the culprit, but ends up bumping into the Pokeet Company guys. Dia needs to get to finding his map, but the president explains about the Poke Edge and its digital map feature. And just like that, Dia gets caught in having to advertise the Poke Edge to others. But whilst they do this, it gets stolen by what seems like a tongue, chasing after it, and finding a Licky Tongue. The wants to catch the Pokemon and nickname it Kit, preparing to battle. But during the fight, this Licky Tongue evolves into a Licky. He has never caught a Pokemon before, so when he tries to throw a Pokeball, it ends up making the Pokemon angrier. Licky spams Dig, and Dia realizes the Pokemon's not only attacking, but stealing items. So by using the Pokecatcher's dowsing machine, they can find his hideout. He speaks down the hole, telling the Pokemon he also likes collecting. But, now on Cyrus, the smoke clears, and Cyrus is impressed, wondering if this could truly be considered a Pokemon move. After all, she did drop meteors on him, but ultimately, this move was used without being mastered. The price is Gotcha suffering to move. Because of her overconfidence and rashness, Cynthia got too hasty, and now she's proving his point on this world being flawed. With things as they are now, he has no reason to stay here. Taking his leave with Twister, Cynthia understands exactly what he's trying to do, so she can't let him complete his goal. Back inside, Pearl and Platinum senses are getting overwhelmed, but they have to press on, unaware that they're so close to their goals. Pearl has used his X-ray vision to find herself. Meanwhile, Platinum manages to find Luxie. The Grunt's had enough of this messing around, activating a wall that splits her apart. Pearl does his best to free the Pokemon from their confinement, and Raya lets him know that the others are here, too. However, with the enemy Pokemon being present, they can't easily achieve their goal. The noise begins to quiet down, and the trio can now hear each other. In order to save the Pokemon, they have to release them, all at the same time. However, with the foes in the way, there's nothing they can currently do, so here comes up the idea to give away their Pokédexes. After all, it will distract the Grunt and his Pokemon, allowing them to save the lake trio. Although Dexes are valuable for creating bonds between people and Pokemon, they're already bound together by friendship that will never disappear. And so they raise up their Pokédexes and give them away. In return, managed to free Lake. Told him late he wasn't able to make it in time. Picking up Pearl and remembering him from the gym battle, he notes that he fought hard by himself, and his inner strength reminds him of someone. At the Patori City gym, Pearl wakes up in a panic, apologizing to his Pokemon for letting him get injured. Crash Awake is cleaning the gym and singing his theme song, and Pearl thanks him for his rescue. Wake explains that Mr. Rickshaw is in the storage room facing his bike, and outside is Quagsire and Flossel. We're using Frame Dance to fill the lake. On the topic of float, his float is super speedy, which would work perfect for Pearl's team. However, he's not just going to give him his Pokemon. Instead, they're going to go catch a wild one on R213. Pearl tries his best to catch one, but they struggle too much. So, they instead go for a Weasel. But this Pokemon's putting up just as much of a fight as the others. Wake explains that since his home got affected by the bomb, they're angry at humans for what they've done. And of course, since they're wild Pokemon, they don't know about evil groups and whatnot. Pearl wants to blame himself for his mistake, but Crash Awake chills him up, reminding him that when things go bad, sometimes you just got to laugh it off. The next morning, Pearl's going to have to catch up with Team Galactic, but in the meantime, Wake offers him some training. But whilst these guys are just happily training over in the galactic building in Fieldstone, Cyrus asks his scientists to get ready to create the red chains. Pearl continues through his training despite how tired and exhausted he is. Asks the Rustleks why they're after the egg in the first place. They reveal someone offered them millions to cause trouble on Iron Island. Riley tells Dia that he worked hard and passed the test, and Dia thanks him, but he knows the enemy came looking for him specifically. Riley then scans the area, noticing something in the sky, and Dia sends a mark leaf, dropping it down being a Team Galactic camera. They then head to Byron's house on Iron Island, as he's left him a gift for Sheldon being a metal coat. He then spots a photo of Byron and Ro, making him realize all the families, including his own, that he has to protect. So, with his training art complete, Dia heads off with Eldritch back to Sinnoh. Meanwhile, Riley tracks the aura of the owner of the drone. Now that we spent some time with Dia, let's check in with Pearl, who's scaling a mountain with his team, spawning a helicopter landing on a spiked building. He then gets into some trouble with some Wingle parents, but clears a misunderstanding and helps out their baby. However, by doing this, he ends up detouring to Fuego Ironworks. The building is spewing fire and inside is a complete mess, and he spots a letter with a galactic symbol, wondering what they're up to. Someone inside the building is calling for help, but before he can find a way in, he gets ambushed. Fortunately, it's a friendly face being Luxray, reuniting with the Pokémon in his pack once again. Luxray leads Poe around the building, where there's a hole inside, and joins him in exploring. With the use of his X-ray vision, they can find the person in danger, locating them and trying to help. This guy remain until detonation. Mars reveals that Mess will appear soon. As for with the girls, Jupiter reveals that UI will appear soon. And lastly, with Pearl, Z wants to know the secret of the island. But with 10 seconds remaining, Azelf will make his appearance soon as well. The timer ticks down, and everyone wonders where the bomb's gonna drop, as all the hatches open, and the bomb does in fact go off. The Mars watches nothing happens, and the same occurrence happens at Lake Acuity, meaning only one possibility. The bomb explodes at Lake Valor, completely evaporating all the water in the lake. S is amazed by the power of his work, and now what he wants to know is why Poe went for the middle of the lake. With no other choice, Poe reveals back when they first came here, bright light emerged, which he had forgotten about, but now he remembers. Inside a puzzle in the cave lie the blue Pokémon in the reflection. S reveals a Pokémon he saw was Azelf, and him and the grunts ready island, finding the Pokémon in the flesh. Meanwhile, at the other caves, Masper and Uzi also awaken, and they fly out their caves with both Dire and Platinum recognizing them. Although their links weren't bombed, the Pokémon are linked together, so they all awoke together. Jupiter attempts to catch the Pokémon. Despite Candace Amin's best efforts, Critical Stone Edge puts them down. Platinum's the only one left standing, and all she can do is watch as the Pokémon gets caught in the net. She tries to have Rafie Dash burn through it, but natural gift water puts a stop to that, allowing Uxie to be captured. Over at Lake Verity, Nespa is surrounded by Saravia, and it gets caught in the net as well. The holds on for dear life, sending True out and having used Mark Leaf while falling in hopes of breaking the net. He then commands more Razor Leafs to mix the attack, covering Mars's vision. However, Mesa is still captured, and Deer and True fall into the lake. And lastly is Lake Valor. But Azelf uses his light to blind Saturn and escape. Pearl also takes his chance to flee, having his Pokémon prepared to help Azelf make his way to freedom. Chimla uses Flare Blitz to deal with his foes, but it starts to tire, and with a fully powered gunk shot from artillery, Pearl's team meets his end. Mister. Rickle wakes up and spots the injured Pearl, who reveals that the Pokémon did in fact get captured. Over in Twin Leaf Town, everyone's worried about Deer, but Joanna remembers that she put her cell phone in his jacket, calling him and finding out he's all chill. He apologizes for putting her in danger and that he's a okay with me spirit, but he can't return home as he's inside Team Galactic's airship. In Snow White City, Planet brings the injured Candace and Mean over to a building, hoping they can seek shelter. Rapid Dash warms him up, but she regrets not being able to defeat Team Galactic, and a massive roar comes from within the building, and Planet prepares a Pokeball to catch whatever it is, but she faints, letting the Pokeball roll towards a very distinct silhouette. Returning to Pearl, Mr. Rick Shaw begins panicking what to do, but a cloaked man appears using rain dance. The lake begins to fill with water, and this man is revealed to be Crash Awake. He learned about Team Galactic, but since Byron, light switch, hoping that someone can notice, which luckily Dia and Sebastian do. He assumes that the Pokémon are here on orders of Team Galactic, so they're gonna have to get rid of them properly. Reading the notebook that Pearl made for him, as well as using his own Pokédex to figure out a way to deal with the Pokémon, coming to the conclusion that destroying the galactic camera is the best bet, rushing in head first and succeeding, causing the Yanmega to flee. As for who was in charge of the swarm, that would be Mars, who's grown tired of Siren's annoying gadgets. However, she doesn't have to worry anymore. She's finally arrived at Lake Verity. During the battle, Dia's clothes got all ripped up, so he's going to have to find a new outfit. Fortunately, he lives nearby, heading home to Twin Leaf Town. We now temporarily head back to Pearl, who's curious about the statue in Eternal City. Mr. Ricker explains that it's been there for a long, long time, and that there used to be 2 plaques on it, one talking about a Pokémon that creates time, and the other about a Pokémon that creates space. In fact, he got kidnapped by Team Galactic due to his family knowing this info. Back with Dia, he arrives in Twin Leaf Town, showcasing both his and Pearl House to his new team members. Meanwhile, Sebastian and Rosanna following after him in order to help with his soon endangering issue. That tells his mother that he's home, but to no reply, heading upstairs and getting changed, learning that there's a new jacket for him. But not only that, this mother's gone to Lake Verity to find some berries. Upon learning this news, he understandably rushes out. The bag, though, contains something that she doesn't recognize. However, they finally arrive at Mount Coronet. Up at top, Spirit Pillar, Cyrus awakens a legendary Pokemon, commanding that they work for him. Meanwhile, on the stairs, the gym leaders continue their battle, and as it goes on, they're joined by Crash Awake, Candace, and Mean were all here to push Shifting to save their region. Jupiter is curious how he managed to get here despite the tons of grunts that are outside. Down to the ground, Byron appears. Him, Roach, and their relative, the Underground Men, are all masterminders, and due to their skills, they manage to travel through the sea underground, eventually reaching Mount Coronet. Byron still has some more digging to do, so the 6 of them will have to deal with the evidence for now. As a massive 3 v 6 battle occurs, Byron lends support for Underground. Back with Cyrus, he tells the Pokemon his commands, which isn't to work together, but instead to battle each other with the clash of space and time, resulting in a new world down below. Byron isn't alone because Rowan Bells have also joined him, giving off information about how to deal with a legendary Pokemon. Now, there's only one person who should be here, who isn't. That's Volna. He gets a message about what's going down, and his response is to delete the message and head home. He then gets a funny feeling, spoiling past the Send of Spring, and finding a little distortion in space-time. The others arrive at the bottom of Sphere Pillar, where they see the legendary Pokemon causing havoc. Well, everyone, apart from Pearl, since he's too busy and distorted by space. Down on the ground, the scientists are reading this idea, sending out his Ellie kit, whilst Platinum picks Low Pony. However, her Pokemon easily gets outmaneuvered and hit hard by Focus Punch. Orna asks if her foe had agile footwork, which they did, being able to attack from anywhere with Shadow Sneak demonstrating by catching any kid off guard and defeating it. Next up is Raichu, and Planin picks out Impelon. Raichu sets up a light screen and Planin reveals that Jupiter's defense was just as good by trapping them in the mud. Raichu heals his injuries with a citrus berry and finishes off Impelon with a thunderbolt. Then wants to know about power, sending out his Electivire. Planin picks out Rapid Dash, mentioning Tangrow's immense power and reach, but Vulcan wants specifics, demonstrating his Thunder Punch and wondering if it matches him, but Plan reveals it doesn't. Instead, it far surpasses him as her Rapid Dash withstood the attack. But that's not all the fun facts she has, as Platinum also heard their leaders from Sunny Shore City too. Volga is interested in this Team Galactic, but for now, Platinum more interesting. Although she lost her battle, she has a good read on her opponent's characteristics, which is something she can agree with. Although she couldn't win, she still learned from the experience, which is something Volga vibes with. So, from now on, he's going to keep teaching them, and they're going to be doing this by fighting until she can make one of his Pokémon faint, and if she can, she'll receive the beacon badge. After that, it will be Candice and Mean's turn. Now, we head back to Pearl, who's continuing to tear through Team Galactic, but now he's fallen back into a cave in order to come up with a better plan. He's with Chatler, who gives him back his team members. But in this joy, there's also trouble as the same annoying Gran is back again, revealing the legendary lake Pokémon are hidden inside the lab. So, he's going to stop Dia here and now. The event starts hearing some faint beeping in the distance, meaning the others are also here. But this is exactly what the Grunt wants, ever since he found out about the Pokédex, a high-tech device developed by Professor Oak and Rowan, given to new trainers who travel the region and gather information. And we get to see a nice cameo of all of our favourite characters. But enjoy it, because we're not going to be seeing some of them for a long time. The Grunt's also done some research from the Destiny-focused battles the deck holders fight against, such as the evil teams of Team Rocket, Aqua, and Magma. Dia does his best to fight against the Grunt, and although he's amazed by the lore of the Pokédex, it's not what's important right now, as he needs to save the Lake Trio. The Grunt holds him down, and Dia commands his Pokémon to focus on the lab instead of the foes, and Dawn gets to work blocking off the others. P and Panem also hear a beeping and start searching the building for each other. Suddenly, in the battle, Dawn begins to glow as he evolves into a Bastiodon, completely blocking the path with Metal Burst and Iron Head. The Pokédex starts getting really loud, so Dia covers a noise with Chatler's chatter, which Qingling gets offended by, forcing it to start using Uproar, creating the worst sound you could probably imagine. In all the chaos, the Grunt accidentally presses the emergency button, covering the then suddenly reunited with the unknown from Cecian Town. But not only that, the other unknown are here too. They offer Pearl their help by rushing Team Galactic and giving him the chance to enter into Veilstone. Since the main entrance is super busy, he's going to enter through the secret passage. This being the same passage that the Grunt used back when he fought Dia. Entering the lost and found building and finding said passage, he gives Chatler True and Kit's Pokeballs, and asks him to go find Dia whilst he storms the place. But time is ticking, and Cyrus has already completed one red chain. He hears from his commanders that someone's breaking in, but Cyrus tells him not to worry, and instead head for Spear Hill on Mount Coroner. Everything's seeming chill so far, but a wall gets blasted, and it's time we remember one very important character we haven't seen in a while, being the overpowered researcher of Sinnoh, Cynthia, beginning a battle between two powerhouses. Also inside the Veilstone building, Dia takes on a Grunt and disguises himself as one of the team's members, successfully blending into the crowd. But he's not the only one making moves, as Platinum also heads their direction, successfully managing to get a win on Volna. She said her goodbyes to her friends, and they promised to defeat Team Galactic in the future as a new and improved Not dressed appropriately for the Weather Girl trio. Outside the building, the unknown is still causing problems, allowing her to sneak in unnoticed. Back with Dia, the Grunts are starting to split up between 3 rooms, and his indecisiveness gets him discovered. Luckily, he manages to escape by stepping on a teleportation panel, trying them all out, and getting a chance meeting. Jupiter is met by a familiar ally. They mention that their leg is permanently injured from an ice attack they received. Jupiter gives them a brace, and this person is revealed to be S, a secret member of Team Galactic. Moon rushes into battle, attacking both Diago and Pelia and sending them flying. Poke retaliates by using Spatial Rend, and Pearl joins into the battle too, using his combo attack to force the two Pokemon into each other. The event then finishes off with an Ice-type move, raising the Pokemon over. So Dagger reverses time. Despite these hack-level abilities, Diamond and Pearl won't give up. Right now, they only have two options: either defeat the Pokemon or catch them. As a duo battle attempt, Platinum and Cynthia find the Elgin meters. The leads have some gifts for Platinum, with Candace giving Frostlass, Gardenia giving a Cherrim, and Lean giving a Patchu from Volma. Platinum thanks them all for their help. The legendary Pokemon start interfering, blasting them, and seeing Platinum's new Pokeballs. As they dodge, Cynthia drops the ancient scroll and Platinum is able to read this text. Cynthia mentions that it's been passed down for generations, and was hoping that it would be able to help them find out about Diagon Palia, so Platinum gets to work trying to decipher it. Cynthia wants to know where Cyrus is. After all, he's the one who called upon the legends. Meanwhile, Platinum figures out the moves that the Pokemon are using, being Roar of Time and Spatial Rend. Ever since they arrived, the legends have been focusing on them instead of each other, which would mean they're no longer fighting. However, Cyrus's voice echoes around the area as he reveals that the new call wind Gulf next, and Lady switches to Impelon. Drifblim goes for Ominous Wind, but Impelon uses it as a chance to fire off Blizzard, taking down Drifblim as well. But now it's Miss Magus' turn, and with his Murmus, everything begins to change. It starts off by outspeed Impelon with the use of Trick Room and takes it down. Honey is out next, but it can't manage to keep it cool and gets taken out as well. Lady's only Pokemon left is Lax, who also falls prey to the hallucinations. Fantina's trick works especially well on Lady and her Pokemon, as they're too focused on logic. Meanwhile, Lax and Dia are way too attracted by food. Paul's the only one keeping things together. After a while, he figures something out, telling Lady that the food is delicious and that he's having fun. So by following his lead, Lady starts to enjoy herself with Lax, and Fantina goes for the finishing blow. But Miss Maggie's head gets bonked by an iron ball, taking it down. This is all thanks to Lax using Fling with an iron ball that they found at the Celestic Ruins incident. And since Fantina is a ghost-type user, they wanted Lax to have some dark-type moves. And lastly, the iron ball slowed down Lax, guaranteeing it to move first in the Trick Room. So, just like that, Lady gets her 5th badge. But the statue says that Pearl's actions were practically coaching. Fantina, though, still accepts the win as a legit win, since no one had broken through her hallucinations before. As for Dia, he fell down one of the platforms, but he's come up with a new visual gag in the process. So that'll be perfect for the future. Fantina recommends that they stop by Cal. A wild Steelix then appears, but Dawn manages to block it. The Pokemon then begins attacking with Iron Tail, but Lax manages to grab it, giving True a perfect opportunity to attack, but Dia hesitates. Riley asks when all the trouble's going down, and Dia reveals it's next Saturday. So, if they take in consideration how long it'll take him to reach Lake Verity, he only has 3 days to lock in with his training. Tree tries to attack with Crunch, as Dia doesn't want to risk Earthquake hurting everyone else. But ultimately, his team gets defeated, and Steelix flees. Riley lets him know that the Steelix is the leader of the cave, and even he hasn't defeated it himself yet. Dia continues his training, going through the levels and getting healed whenever he reaches the entrance, and 2 days of training fly by. On the last day, Dia cooks some dinner for everyone, and Riley notices a book he has on battle practice where Dia lists out everything he has to do in order to cover his weaknesses. Drawn by the smell of a nice food, while Pokemon come over to them and enjoy the meal with them. In the middle of the night, Dia gets up and practices with True, hitting a target with his Razor Leaf. Byron calls Riley to hear Dia's progress, and Riley explains that he lacks power, but he's super compassionate and hardworking, finding solutions to every problem that comes his way, and tomorrow will be his final exam. Lucario then senses something that catches his attention. The last day of training comes around, and for his exam, he has to do the same course, but this time he has to find an egg, which Riley has hidden. However, he's going to have to city before going to Mount Coronair, showcasing the conference on television, but the news station reports that Professor Rowan and Mr. Barretts have gone missing. After hearing this news, a lady calls Sebastian, explaining to the others that Mr. Barretts is her father. Diamond reassures her that everything will be fine, and in order to help with transport, Fantina gives them Drifblim once again. Pearl realizes things are going to get dicey as they're escorting her, but they're not her real bodyguards. the group arrive in Cana City, but since none of the investigators are here yet, they should go rest at a hotel for now. Lady wants to do the same, but she hears her father's voice, rushing towards a building. Once they enter, a mechanism activates, pushing them all around to Roach's father, Iron, and he wants to know what they're doing here without permission. Speaking of Roach, let's head to Ouroboros City for a while, as his Craniodos is evolving into a Rampardos. He speaks to one of his colleagues on his visit to Canal City. His father noticed a suspicious gang visiting the city and doing research in the library. He ended up investigating them, and now recently this has happening that the two scenarios are likely connected. However, his father is known for rushing into things headlong, so he's kind of worried about him, which we see here and now as he fights Lady with his Bronzong. Pearl can see that he's not a rookie trainer, planning his moves carefully. So, he and Dia head out to help. Lady sorts him though, as this has to do with her father, so she'll fight it herself. And with Ponyta's flames, she burns down the curtain, uncovering her captured father's location. The recognizes them as earlier are getting interrogated by the international police, namely Looker, who leaves his crow on to watch over them. Dr. Footsteps leaves the station, but outside he finds himself in a spear pillar. And we see all across the Sinnoh region, people getting shifted around. Also we hear a small cameo from BB, the girl who controls the Sinnoh storage system, and her friend Haley, the owner of the Pokémon ranch. Cyrus tells the others that if they're feeling fear, then it's proof that they're incomplete. Emotions can be controlled through willpower, and if you've got knowledge, you can increase your willpower. That is the balance that he seeks. However, right now, the world is lacking. So we must start everything from scratch. Everything begins flowing upwards, including the knocked out gym leaders. The gang get to work in saving them, but no matter what they do, they can't stop themselves from getting pulled. Tries to go up the hole with Moose's blizzard, but to no effect. So, he instead aims to fill up the hole himself, but as he does, something pops out from Platinum's bag as Regigigas has entered the scene, and Platinum mentions this was what was inside her bag. I wonders if it's on her team, and someone replies, revealing that it is, as his footsteps reveal, that it's been waiting for orders, and will fight for Sinnoh and give its all. This person being Nocta. Footsteps, who stumble into the final battle. Regigigas rushes straight into things, manhandling both legendaries. Cyrus knocks Dia off the Pokémon, failing to understand why they continue to get in his way. But Dia understands Cyrus. He's a slow guy, especially compared to Pearl. An hour to him can feel short, but to Pearl can feel long. But at the end of the day, it's still the same hour, and that's how he experienced time. On their journey, they went to many places and met many people, realizing how big the world really was, allowing him to experience space. However, Cyrus doesn't find his answer compelling, which is why he wants to make a new slate. But Dia tells him that it's not up to him to decide whether the time he spent with his friends was a waste, and he has no right to take those things away from people. And it's not only Dia who thinks this, as Diago and Palia stop fighting. Cyrus can't give up now, using his last chain to bind both Pokemon, and not only that, attacking Dia with the chain directly. Platinum and Pearl rush to his side, proud of his actions, and Platinum's finally a safe at the scroll. The two legendary Pokemon are counterparts, and they're perfectly balanced. However, since Cyrus only has one red chain, he can't truly control them, so when this imbalance shows, it's their chance to attack. Pearl and Diamond prepare their team, and when the signal arises, they strike with everything they have, breaking the chains and freeing the Pokemon. Cyrus begins to get blown into the sky, witnessing Diamond's emotion, Pearl's willpower, and now Platinum's knowledge, understanding that even though incomplete, they work together to stop him. The hole in the sky fades away along with the distortions. Cyrus is alive, but injured. Diego and Palia have also calmed down, so everything is a mission success. And whilst they're here, it's time for Platinum to collect the materials for her crest. With some help, she successfully manages to complete her goal. Now, there's only one thing left to do, and that's save Pekka all the information they can. And now whatever happens isn't their business. Diamond wants to argue this, but Poe knows what he's going to say. But the pain they're feeling now is what they get for hurting Lady in the first place, returning both their Pokédexes and Pokeaches. But suddenly, the dexes start beeping as Lady appears. She knows what everyone said in their own opinions, but now it's time for her to voice her own thoughts. She's not good with words, so she's written a letter, reading it out. Yesterday, she ran away after hearing the truth and spent the night not knowing what to believe. However, after thinking about everything they've been through on their journey, she came to the conclusion that she enjoyed it and honestly had a lot of fun, experiencing many things that she's only read about before, all thanks to them protecting her from danger. And although she called them liars, in truth, she is too, missing out all the time she lied, and I mean every single one, bowing her head and apologizing, promising from now on she'll be honest with them, starting by saying she wants to travel with them no matter what happens, signing off her letter to her knights with her name Platinum Berets, finally giving our protagonist the name after I don't even know how many chapters. She then tells the others that she's going to be continuing her journey and crushing evil while she's at it, going to the lakes and protecting the Pokémon from the bomb, Mr. Bells asks his daughter to reconsider. After all, this is really dangerous. But she refuses, disobeying her father and showcasing her will with her ponytail evolving. She tells the others what she heard last night, and because of this, she area with fog. So, when Pearl and Platinum eventually arrive, they can't see anything. The grunt tries to contact Cyrus on this troubling situation, but he's too busy getting held up by the region's champion. Cynthia is here to put a stop to Cyrus right now, taking down his honk crow, but he's not fazed by her threats, outsmarting her and freezing her spirit tomb, and even using embargo to stop it from recovering with a berry. So Cynthia switches for Meiotic, uses Iron Tail. After what Cyrus did to the ruins in her hometown, she isn't going to simply let him slide. Cyrus explains that the pains revealed a lot to him. For example, as of being the willpower Pokémon, hence why he headed for Lake Valor so he could crush willpower with his own. Where begins, stabbing Milutic's tail, and Cynthia commands Brian to finish it off. Up next is Gyarados, and Cynthia can tell that this Pokémon's his card. Due to its immense speed, all she can do right now is aim to slow it down, but she just can't keep up. The sun then begins shining brightly as morning arises once again, and Cyrus commands his Pokémon to hide within the sun, setting up with Dragon Dance, and finishing off with a powerful Giga Impact, taking down Milotic. Things aren't looking good, so it's time for Garcho to enter the scene. But even with his health, Cyrus is way too strong. However, since our Pokémon wants revenge, it's not going to go down without a fight. Cyrus is then informed that the red chain is ready for creation. Garcho is proper tweaking out, so Cynthia decides it's time for a little risk, commanding the powerful dragon-type move, Draco Meteor, as little meteors rain. Increased, and even if it gets hit, it can recover with rest. Candace can tell that Platinum's trying to end the battle quickly, which means she's lacking a focus, making her panic and drop her guidebook. Candace looks her up and down, manages to suss everything out, knowing she's in a battle that she didn't necessarily want to take, and is just following the flow. She wakes up Rapidash with Wake Up Slap and asks the chairman if they can call off the battle, but this can't be allowed. Plan thinks to herself on what to do. Rapidash is getting low on health due to Wake Up Slap, and Impelon is out of commission. Normally, Diamond and Pearl would support her, but for this battle, she has no choice but to fight herself. Try out her new Pokémon that she's never battled with. Candace gets back into things, making Platinum accidentally send out her new team member, being Lenny. Candace tells Platinum that dilly-dallying isn't the way to go through things, and if she doesn't get her act together, she'll never be able to take down Team Galactic. Beginning her attack with Ice Shard, Platinum wants to know about how she knows about Team Galactic, but the only way to find out is by showcasing her focus, logging in and having Loney begin evasive maneuvers and striking with Jump Kick, taking down a Bomber Snow. Frostlass is back out, and it can match Loney's speed, taking it down. But the battle isn't over as Rapidash blazes into battle, healed by Lon's Healing Wish and taking down Frostlass, winning Platinum the battle. She thanks Candace for reminding her what's important, and Candace gives her the Icicle badge. She also recommends that she gets more Pokémon to join. You shouldn't steal from others, predicting the Pokémon's next attacking location by using a pedometer and catching it, and with one more Pokéball, successfully adding it to his team. A crowd is formed watching Dia's actions, and all rush to buy a poke catch. Dia needs to go to the lake though, but first he has to return all the items that Kit stole, with one of them being a Protein Omega figure. He returns the figure to its owner, but she reveals that it was her grandson who doesn't use it anymore, so he can keep it, which is a big win for him. He turns it on, and it begins running around. So, he chases after it, and eventually ends up climbing a fence, landing in a beautiful park. He heads through the park, but no matter how far he goes, there seems to be no exit. Suddenly, Sebastian appears, asking him what he's doing trespassing on Sanjian property. Dia gets easily apprehended. Sebastian boasts that with his security, the BER estate will always be safe, making Dia realize that he's at Platinum's home, introducing himself and making Sebastian humbly apologize. Sebastian brings him into the home, dresses him up, and he thanks him for everything he's done for Platinum. Right now, they only have one day until the lake attack, and Team Galactic is sure to be present soon. Professor Rowan and Mr. Barretts are still in Canelli, recuperating from their injuries, but still working at his lab is Roseanne, one of the other researchers. Roseanne heads outside for some fresh air, but finds herself surrounded by Yanmega. The Pokémon swarm her and try breaking to the lab, then buzzing so loud that nothing else can be heard. So, as a form of SOS, she flickers a out kit in order to break the net. However, it failed, leading to both Pokémon falling in the lake, creating 2 splashes and having him getting dragged into the ship. With this new information, Pearl prepares to head to Vale soon, equipped with his new bike. Wade comments that he taught Pearl everything he could in a night, and if he believes in Dia, he'll also be fine too. When they spoke on the phone, Dia reminded his mother of Protein Omega and their story. And as you can see by his team members, Protein Omega is actually based on Red's team. In the show, there were bad guys. Now these bad guys exist in real life. They're doing bad things, so he has to stop them. Per reaches Veilster City and is swarmed with grunts, so he sends out Zella, but it attacks him. However, it also attacks the grunts. He then sends out his Diglett to confuse everyone and finish it off with his Taurus Tar. Although new teammates, they've bonded together. And even with a few stray enemies, he has his OG squad ready to assist him too. And with V6 Pokemon by his side, this is Pearl's new team. Alright, that's enough of the boys. Let's check in on Platinum, who awakens in a Pokemon Center with Candice and Mean, who both thank her for saving their lives. Platinum's confused about how they made it here since she stopped off at what looked like an ancient temple, which they realized was Snow White Temple. Candice doesn't know much about the temple itself, but either way, they're all safe and sound, and they need a new strategy to deal with the enemy. So, Candice calls Byron, telling him that they need backup that can train area with fog. So, when Pearl and Platinum eventually arrive, they can't see anything. The grunt tries to contact Cyrus on this troubling situation, but he's too busy getting held up by the region's champion. Cynthia is here to put a stop to Cyrus right now, taking down his honk crow, but he's not fazed by her threats, outsmarting her and freezing her spirit tomb, and even using embargo to stop it from recovering with a berry. So, Cynthia switches for Myotic, uses Iron Tail. After what Cyrus did to the ruins in her hometown, she isn't going to simply let him slide. Cyrus explains that the pains revealed a lot to him. For example, as of being the willpower Pokemon, hence why he headed for Lake Valor so he could crush willpower with his own. Ware begins stabbing Milutic's tail, and Cynthia commands Brian to finish it off. Up next is Gyarados, and Cynthia can tell that this Pokemon's his card. Due to its immense speed, all she can do right now is aim to slow it down, but she just can't keep up. The sun then begins shining brightly as morning arises once again, and Cyrus commands his Pokemon to hide within the sun, setting up with Dragon Dance, and finishing off with a powerful Giga Impact, taking down Milotic. Things aren't looking good, so it's time for Garcho to enter the scene, but even with his health, Cyrus is way too strong. However, since our Pokemon wants revenge, it's not going to go down without a fight. Cyrus is then informed that the red chain is ready for creation. Garcho is proper tweaking out, so Cynthia decides it's time for a little risk, commanding the powerful dragon-type move, Draco Meteor, as little meteors rain, easy, and the Pokédex hasn't been able to scan these new evolutions. Not to mention, last time they met Cyrus, he attempted to kill them. They prepare a plan to leave with Garchomp, but when done, he is revealed to have stayed behind. Diamond approaches Cyrus, singing the anthem of the Pro Team Omega and telling Cyrus about the villains in the show, asking if he's just like them, but Cyrus walks right past him and captures a photo of the mural. He thinks to himself about what he's deciphered and heads back to his vehicle, but Diamond gets in his way again, so Cyrus nukes him with Magnet Bomb. Poe heads to his friend's rescue and he says that True helped him at the last second, and Nax also managed to steal the camera. Pearl asks why he attempted such a crazy thing, asking him if he's stupid, but Diamond says maybe he is. Running away was Pearl's idea, but his idea was to stay behind. Pearl always bosses him around, so he's been meaning to tell him something for a while, and that's that he's not his sidekick. Pearl asks when he bosses him around. Dia says all the time, especially when he's getting hit in their routines. Pearl starts getting angry as after all he came up with the ideas while he's just sleeping and eating, only choosing to hit him because it makes everything funnier. And Diamond retorts, saying he says he's doing it for the both of them, but in truth, he's just doing it for himself. Whilst these two best friends make enemies, their true foe appears. Cyrus preps a charge beam. Pearl tries to get Dia to run, but True blocks the attack. Pearl says they got to ditch the camera and run, Lax, but also his mother and Mars. Over at Lake Valor, Peanut notes that the road isn't blocked like before, getting a squad ready to fight. His first job is to check the small island, crossing the lake and boosting themselves forward with chimless flames. Mr. Rick is impressed by his will, but suddenly he gets grabbed by a tentacle and dragged into the lake. Per to check the island with his X-ray vision, but he gets dragged underwater by an octillery. The Pokémon then fires off an Octuka, completely destroying the tree they were on. Commander Saturn then appears, also impressed by Pearl's skills, introducing himself formally. He also reveals that Mr. Rickshaw is out of commissions and in 3 minutes the bomb's going to detonate. He doesn't know where it's going to be, but he really hopes that it's this place. Since the detonation time is soon, he thinks it's best to leave Pearl in the water where he can get evaporated by the bomb. But before that, he wants to know why he was headed for the island in the first place. As for Diamond, he's forced to drop all of his Pokeballs. Mars is surprised to see his face again, introducing herself as a lady from Valley Windworks. Right now, he's helpless, so she wonders if he wants to watch the bomb go off as well. But Dia isn't here to mess around. A battle begins, and Dia's mom, Joanna, sprays Yuzuba's face with a berry, giving her the chance to escape, and Dia the chance to open a Pokeball, heading for the airship with Drifblim. But Mars is also chasing after him. In the sky, as Yumega's Faster is also getting involved, so things are looking really bad. 20 seconds, them turning around and running away. Meanwhile, over at Veilston's galactic building, Cyrus is happy that the funds they stole are going to good work, as the bomb is nearly complete, and in a week from now, they'll detonate it. Back in Canlave, Diamond and Pearl watch Lady from a distance, and over 8 hours have passed. Although Diamond wants to come for her, Pearl says they can't right now since they are the ones who hurt her. Byron goes to speak with her, revealing that her father and Professor Rowan have decided to cut her journey short. With the interference of Team Galactic, everything's way too dangerous. But next time, she'll have proper bodyguards to defend her. As for Diamond and Pearl, they'll be going back to their own homes. For the night, Lady stays at Canal City's gym accommodation, finally falling asleep. But when her guard is lowered, King Galactus' grunt appears, thanking her for their ability to complete the galactic bomb and revealing he's about to release her father. But before he goes, he leaks that they're going to use the bomb to capture the 3 legendary Pokémon and detonate them to dry up the Sinnoh Lakes, and it will all happen next Saturday. You may be wondering, why would he say this information? Well, that's because she can't hear him anyway. As she sleeps, Lady dreams of her travels with her friends, but the Lake Trio appear, and everything gets nuked with Diamond and Pearl meeting a gruesome end. She wakes up from her nightmare, and after some self-reflection, she prepares a letter. Diamond and Pearl, on the other hand, are preparing to leave, apologizing for everything they've done. They would have liked to say goodbye, but they don't want to upset Lady anymore. They've given, after all, their mission is to protect Lady and bring her safely to Mount Coronair. Dia says even if he gets pressured like this, and even if it's a good plan, doesn't mean that he's taking in consideration his own feelings, deciding to follow his own guard. Cyrus took the info that was never meant to be seen, and if he uses it for evil, it can only lead to tragedy. Pearl's never seen his friend this angry before, and Cyrus begins another attack to get the camera back, but Lax manages to fight back. So Cyrus commands Magnezone to assist Magnus and pull everything with metal, including their Pokédexes, Pokeballs, and of course, the camera. But at the last second, Charla comes to the rescue, grabbing the camera and flying far away. The looks to his friend, and Pearl says, although he may be weak himself, he is showing true willpower right now, so he can't just ignore it. Feeling bad that he's never considered his friend's feelings until now, Cyrus then commands gravity, dropping Chatler immediately. He tells the boys that their efforts are pathetic and futile. Everything he does is bigger than the both of them, as it's as grand as the grand cosmos. He formally introduces himself as Cyrus, the man who seeks the energy in order to create an ideal world rid of petty strife. He wonders if the 2 boys will join him. Both of them are brave and they follow their heart and will, something his henchmen could learn from. Pearl asks if he wants them to join his side, and Cyrus says that's right. With their youthful energy, together they can create a new world. So Pearl tells him to remove the gravity. Cyrus complies, whilst Pearl gives Chatler one more command, the people they bumped into back in Jubilite City, and Pearl realizes the time for the truth is near. Lady demands the releasage of her father, taking down both Bronzongs, and after hearing this, and seeing that she has gym badges, Byron quickly understands his mistake. Lady is about to smash the cage open with a shovel, but Byron explains that he's been trying to figure out how to open it the right way. Introducing himself as Canal S's gym leader, Byron, wishing that his Shieldon showed her the badges sooner, but this little Pokémon is way too independent. Since he technically lost here, Lady earns a 6th gym badge, and we get to hear the results of his investigation. He overheard Mr. Barrett getting forcefully extorted by Team Galactic, rushing to the rescue, but Professor Rowan also appeared, forcing a grunt to trap him into a cage. This cage has a special edition of trapping out sound. However, it's weakening over time, and they can slowly start to hear each other. Mr. Burles is relieved that his daughter managed to get free, even with her bodyguards getting defeated. Lady is confused by what he's saying, as, after all, she never got kidnapped and her bodyguards have been protecting her every step of the way. But Mr. Billis replies, saying he doesn't know the 2 boys that she's with, so Diamond and Pearl tell the truth. They're not her real bodyguards, and in fact, they're just some random kids. However, they witness the real bodyguards vanishing in Veilstone City. Even after everything was just a misunderstanding, they still pledge to keep Lady safe. Lady's speechless at what she's hearing, but what makes her most upset is the fact that they've been lying to her when she put their trust in. He does get along with the Shieldon that Byron was looking after, so he's going to give it to him and have him go through a training arc himself. The next day rolls around, and on Route 204, Pearl and his team break up, ready for their quest. Usually, he has to wait for the others in the lobby, and they all stop their beeping Pokédexes. But today, all that awaits him is silence. As for Lady, she awakens en route 211 with her team. For her, Pearl would usually scold her for being late, and Dia would be the last to join them. The Pokédex would still be beeping, but now all that's here is silence. And lastly, Diamond, who awakens aboard the SS Sinner with his team. Normally, everyone would already be awake and meet him in the lobby. The Pokédex would beep and they would all turn him off at the same time. But today, no beeping occurs, with all three trainers feeling the sadness of having to travel alone for the first time since they started. But let's move on from the waterworks. If you're wondering who's captain in this SSO, it's Eldritch, the sailor we've grown familiar with. He meets up with Diamond and discovers his Pokémon are eating all the food on the ship. It's his first day being a captain, and now he has to deal with Diamond's antics, asking his crew to keep an eye on him. Well, it turns out they've all been knocked out. And the culprit here is Gliscor. Diamond checks with his Pokédex, which Eldritch, of course, recognizes. But Gliscor begins his attacks with fire, ice, and Thunderfangs. So Diamond prepares a counter, having Lax throw a ton of berries at the Pokémon, whilst Dawn, the willpower to trust Pearl. They continue dodging and navigating, and finally, they clear the area, narrowing Luxray to turn around and prepare to attack Houndoom, sending it flying out the building across the moving floors. They then successfully meet up with Mr. Fuego and save him. Pearl heals up Luxray and gets ready to continue on, but Luxray wants to join him on his journey, which his pride agrees with. So, Pearl accepts, nicknaming it. He then asks Mr. Fuego about the materials he used to build the galactic bomb. With Pearl's arc done, next up is Platinum on Route 216. Since there's a snowy route, she's gonna have to ski through, and although she's read about it, she's never done it herself. The skier asks if she's new to it, but she replies that she's perfectly good before remembering her promise, revealing this is her first time. The skier offers the teacher, but after countless failed attempts, he gives up on her, leaving her to go down the slope. Platinum ends up crashing, and some of her equipment ends up hitting a wild gravel and brings over his crew in order to get some revenge. Planet asks her Impelon to try resolve things peacefully, but the Pokémon don't seem too cooperating. Eventually, Impelon manages to blow snow over them, giving Lady the chance to hide, but she begins to pass out in the blizzard due to her light clothing. Some time passes, and when she awakens, she's been saved by a trainer and her bomber Snow. The girl jokes that Platinum was her twin due to also wearing light clothing, but explains that if you wear them, you'll increase your focus. Platinum passes out again, and next time she wakes up, she's back in her lodging. And Yuji. Although she never met them, they fought hard for her, so she won't rest until they can get saved. Since Cyrus is down for the count, they can't ask him for a while, so their best bet is to take everyone to the hospital. As the gang head home, one of Team Galactic's scientists watches Regigigas, wanting to have it for himself. However, right now he needs to focus on the hole in the sky. Higgins is reading and laughing to himself. Cyrus was foolish enough to believe that it would create a new world, but the truth is, it's something else entirely. But his excitement gets him spotted by Dia, and when he tries to flee, Byron and the others block his path. They trap him and steal his device, but he reveals this was a huge mistake, as a tentacle rips out from the hole, grabbing Diaga, Palia, and Cyrus, bringing all three of them into the hole. The one behind his attack shows his face before flying away. The scientist asks Platinum if she knows about the other side of the world, and if she doesn't, she better learn it quick, revealing himself to be Charon and escaping quickly. Kate tries to catch him, but misses. However, he did manage to steal a notebook. Back over with Wagner, he calls Flynn as he stares into the hole, saying that he's excited. After all, he can sense something powerful from within it. So, Flynn asks to join him in investigating, asking his buddy to meet him at the battle zone. 2 weeks fly by and we see Professor Yarn is heading back to her home in the center region. But more importantly, she's equipped with her family crest, revealing herself to also be from the Burleys, and that's to smash the camera, with this being his answer to Cyrus. Coincidentally, Fantina is flying over Celestic Town and spots what's going on down below. Cyrus begins laughing and shouting, and the more he shouts, the stronger Pokémon gets, changing the direction of the wind and bringing over the fog from the nearby roots. He then raises the earth with earth power, rocketing Deer and Pearl into the sky on a pillar, revealing this to be his answer to theirs. By using ground combined with magnetic force, he showcases clear superiority, and even though they're kids, he won't let any disrespect slide. He then commands defog and prepares to leave. Pearl has an undying will, and Diamond has pure emotion. All they need is knowledge, and it'll be a picture-perfect triangle. With Cyrus gone, the atmosphere returns back to normal, and Lady is happy that they're all alive together. Grandma thanks Dia for risking his life to steal the camera, and Pearl wants to hype him up as his own, but after what happened, that wouldn't be too appropriate. Grandma tells Cynthia what happened, and Cynthia says that she'll organize a new defense force. Now that everything's over, Lady's interested in the ruins, since she's a student of archaeology herself. The ones inside the ruins touched their heart, but so did the ones outside. The rocky pillar then begins to fall apart, but Dee and Pearl are luckily saved by Fantina. She wants to see another one of their skits, but the timing is kind of bad. Nonetheless, Dia accepts, starting to skip by himself, but he struggles. Luckily though, Pearl helps him out, and the gag is complete. The group then say their goodbyes to Grandma and Garchomp, and Pearl apologizes to Dia, asking if he's can't rest. Byron sends out his Bronzong and Pearl warns her of incoming extrasensory attack, and Rapid Dash successfully blocks it. Byron tells Mr. Barretts that his daughter is very capable, and that's proof now and by her 6 badges. Mr. Burles brings up the fair point that this is a job for the police, but Byron knows the enemy is too powerful for the police to deal with. Well, not including the international police. Not to mention, Lady gathers 6 badges in 25 days, which is already way faster than the record held by Sapphire with 8 badges in 80 days. Professor Rowan agrees with this, and Mr. Barretts gives in. After all, this is the first time she's ever offered a genuine apology, asking Diamond and Pearl to protect her and thanking them for helping her transform to this point. Before the 3 can set out again, Ruin upgrades their Pokédexes to national ones and officially accepting Diamond and Pearl as deck holders. Right now though, they've got a big problem. There's 3 Sinnoh Lakes, and only a week to get to them all. Considering the amount of money they took, they probably have 3 bombs, and they'll most likely all go off at the same time. So Pearl decides that since there's 3 of them, they'll split up and take it on individually, and they all agree to this, vowing to protect the legends of the lake. So Pearl heads for Lake Valor and Platinum Lake, leaving Lake Verity for Diamond. But before he can go, Byron has a task for him, and that's to board a ship and undergo some special training. Lady's the strongest of them all,